So on 3, we're gonna do our jingle.
No. It's a
1, 2, 3.
Jingle,
Love
jingle, jingle,
weighs
weighs in. Jingle, jingle, jingle.
Hi, it's the same day, but you're watching this on a different day.
That's how time works.
Yeah, while I have Tyler and while we are kind of already talking about stuff, I wanted to film just another entry of this series focused on how Tyler has navigated me having an eating disorder, like explicitly me having an eating disorder, because I've always known, and I told him, I don't think I told you right when we started dating, but
No.
when it was starting to get hard for me, I eventually told you
Yes.
that I struggled with an eating disorder, and it has taken a
And
while.
how old were you when it first really, like, jumped out at you?
I would say it started probably the summer after my first year of college. So I was 19. It was like the summer I turned 19. Yeah, because I remember in college, my freshman year of college, thinking like, all right, this is it. I'm going to get healthy and toned and fit, and all of the stuff that comes with that is all of the behaviors that can become very disordered. So yeah, it was not a good time. And along with that was also the same time that the first time I had a depressive episode. What do you know? What? There's a connection there? What? Yeah. It was not great. But, for a lot of my 20s, I actually didn't really struggle with it. It was very much dormant, I like to say, because I think it's always going to be there. It's always going to be part of me and something that I'm very disposed to. But just lately, probably
And
since,
then when did it come back?
I would say it really started to come back when I was playing Juliet, because I was so aware of and this actually connects to what we were talking about in the last video about certain roles and how I was thinking. And I wasn't fat by any means. I just wasn't as small as I wanted to be, and how I imagined how I should look playing Juliet. So I became very strict about what I was eating and how much I was eating, because and it wasn't like I never fit into the costumes. I just wanted to be as small as I possibly could. And so, but that same year is also when I split up from my husband, and my whole life completely turned upside down. I turned it upside down, but it was very much everything changing all at once. So along with that came even more disordered eating habits, and the worst depression I've ever experienced. So, and there's a relationship between my depression and my eating disorder where
one feeds into the other.
Yeah, it's reciprocal. It's like if one increases, the other's going to increase, and vice versa. We named that Heather in my mind. We're not going to say the whole name.
Just mean Heather.
Mean something
Missing
Heather.
A descriptor in the middle.
Yeah, yes, but we'll say MCH or just mean Heather if we're referring to her in the video. And yeah, at some point Tyler named that entity that would basically tell me, and it sounds like I was hearing voices. I wasn't. It's more, it wasn't like a true audible something I was hearing, but more just that voice in your head that is not very nice to you. So I think a lot of people can relate to that. But we named it, and that would help. Tyler would start to kind of talk to me and separate the two, which actually, and from what I'm learning, is very therapeutic. There are certain...
Who knew?
Yeah, there are certain therapeutic models and techniques that externalize the disorder or the problem, or it depathologizes the person. So it takes the eating disorder or it takes the depression, and you actually give it a name and you refer to it as something outside of yourself, so that you can separate the disorder or whatever it is from who you are. So it's not like I am depressed, it's I have depression. And what does your depression say? That's a very narrative therapy thing. So Tyler named it, and of course he didn't know any of that, but it ended up working really well when we would discuss when I was in one of those really bad places.
Yeah. And I was just thinking of Superman 3. When Superman gets exposed to the Fakakta kryptonite and then gets split in two. And there's angry Superman and normal Superman. And so I was having a conversation with MCH.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was one of the first things you learned how to do when navigating this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think there were also certain things that just from being really uninformed, it's not your fault, you just didn't know, certain things that probably worked against everything, without knowing.
And I would, I finally figured out, look up what to do when your partner has an eating disorder. Look up what to do when your partner deals with depression.
That's a very Heather thing to do.
Yeah.
That I would look stuff up like that, and if I thought to, I remember doing it with my ex, I sent him something about like how to help your partner who is experiencing depression or something. But so you did, and what did you learn?
Well, one of them was to externalize, and I think I just did that naturally first, but
I think you did.
Then that confirmed it. But also to make decisions for the other party, mm-hmm. because of the decision fatigue and the executive function being so depressed, or that the depression is actively fighting against, and the eating disorder is actively fighting against executive function.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's very paralyzing sometimes when it is time, even just time to eat something. That is when you're stuck in those cycles of disordered habits, it's very paralyzing. And so to have someone come in, and because rational Heather could be like, I know I need to eat something, I know I'm hungry, and I know that not eating that's just not going to work. Like, I've got all this stuff to do, and if I don't do it, it's going to make me more depressed. But then mean Heather is like, well, no, you can't eat. Or if you do, it can only be X, Y, or Z. And rational Heather's like, X, Y, or Z sounds so not satisfying. It doesn't sound like it'll give me any energy. Like, but I want this. I want this other thing. But mean Heather's like, no, you can't have that. And so I think we were able to slowly come up with certain foods that were kind of safe bets.
I found that Indian food was always a safe bet with her, specifically Indian from Trader Joe's, because she was always worried about my wallet. She was always worried about me overspending on Indian, because it's not cheap. And one of these days I will learn to make a masala, and then all our problems are solved. But you can buy a bunch of stuff from Trader Joe's, and I could cook that up, and the smell of it in the house, because your apartment is so tiny, there's actually an advantage there. There's no diffusion of the scent, so I can put some naan in the oven and heat that up, and immediately I know that I'm going to beat mean Heather. I'm going to win, because naan is more powerful than she is.
And it's the spices of the curries and the masalas and all of that, because that would appeal to rational Heather wanting something that was so flavorful and delicious. But mean Heather, there are certain things about it that were like, fine, that's okay. And I don't want to get too much into
and part of it was that it's prepackaged, so you could track that.
Those are the
things you don't want to get
that
into.
I wasn't going to want to get into.
Never mind.
I'm already going to put a trigger warning just before this, just in case stuff like that slips out.
It's how I could work within the rules of the game that me and Heather placed for me.
Yeah.
So I could, make my way around by doing certain things, and play within the system. But I could walk right up to the edge. I mean, this is very much a me thing to do. Walk right up to the edge of breaking the rule to make it work for me and for you. And Indian came to me. You never said, "Oh, go get Indian." It was, and this is spoiler alert for a television show from about 20 years ago. There's an episode or a series of episodes of The West Wing where one of the characters, Leo, has a heart attack and then has no appetite during his recovery. And he has an Indian nurse who is helping him during his recovery. And one day she goes to a family wedding and then brings him home some naan and I think some masala. And he finds his appetite again. The smell of the naan, just the garlicness, the butteriness, and the
Comment down below if you really want Indian food right now.
Yeah, and then the smell of the masala, the way the spice hits the back of your olfactory senses.
Yeah.
It pushed him to want food again. And I figured, well, if it works for Leo McGarry, then it can work for Heather Warren. Yeah, if it can work for an Aaron Sorkin character, it can work for my girlfriend. And
I'm basically an Aaron Sorkin character.
You really are. You talk. You could do a walk and talk like nobody's business. You think that you belong in the Gilmore Girls universe, but you don't. You really belong in the West Wing universe.
All right.
It's because you can do more complex stuff. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, this has become a commentary on my acting.
Yeah.
Type
It's just
and
as you as a
ability.
person. You talk really fast.
I do.
You walk really fast.
I do.
And you would look good next to Rob Lowe.
What?
I would pay real money to see you have a scene with Allison Janney because she is so tall.
Oh my God.
It'd be like when Kristen Chenoweth was on, and she and Allison Janney could not stand next to each other in the show because it freaked them both out. They're like, "No, you're too small. No, you're too tall."
I didn't get that far in the show.
You will pick it up.
I do. I will. I'll pick it back up.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was one thing that he would figure out, certain foods that were safe bets.
Spicy was always good.
Spicy
I
was
bought
always good.
tuna, sun-kissed tuna that is, or star-kissed tuna that is
Sriracha.
sriracha. And I remember you saying, "Oh, I'm not going to like that. I don't like sriracha."
Because it doesn't taste like sriracha.
I
It's
said,
just
"Try
spicy. It was really, and I still to this day. So that is very much a safe food for me. Still.
Avocado toast.
Avocado toast with eggs. I mean, I don't want to go in and list all my safe foods, but the idea is that he figured out, or we figured out, what foods he could just make to get rid of that decision fatigue.
Yeah.
So that was really helpful. And something I don't think we have a ton of time to get into, but as I started to learn more about intuitive eating and just different ways I might try to recover on my own, and we were talking about this more explicitly, like relationship with food, relationship with our bodies. It came out like Tyler's got an unhealthy relationship with his food and or his body and food as well. And so I became more aware of the effect of any relapse on my part or any disordered behaviors on my part on him. And
when you are having a hard time, I have a harder time.
Yeah. And it's not just, it's partly like you don't like seeing me struggle or seeing me in pain, but it's also, well, if Heather's gonna do this stuff, then she can't say that I can't do this stuff because she doesn't want to ever sound like a hypocrite. So, because what would happen is when I was full on like, yeah, I'm in recovery and I'm gonna do intuitive eating and do all this stuff, I would be a lot more aware of it and I would call him out on something that was kind of disordered, or I would just be a little bit more aware of how we talked about stuff. But when I'm where I am right now, it's like I have no place to talk. I'm not doing as well as I should.
But I also don't like that you get on yourself about that. Because one, you're doing this on your own. You don't have a therapist right now. You know, you've read your intuitive eating and all of those things, and you are very much, I'm going to go for it, and then if I can't perfect it in a moment, it's all worthless and I'm useless. And I don't like when you get so on yourself about that, because it is a process. It is 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And you know, you at the beginning of the year, you really embraced this, and then your body responded in different ways, and then the world got more difficult around you.
Yeah.
And one of the things her therapist told her 2 years ago, was using the disordered eating as a control when the depression starts spiking. And if you're going to hand off one to the other, then better to turn into the skid, as it were.
So the way I imagined it is, if I'm at rock bottom, full depression, all of that, then and if I'm trying to climb out of a pit, imagine somewhere along the way up there's a place to rest, and that's eating disorder land, where I'm not fully better, I'm not totally recovered, I'm not like mentally as healthy as I possibly can be, but it's a place to rest. That's easy for me to stay there rather than slide back down to depression land. So then, you know, and I've never climbed fully out of the pit, at least not in the last like 3-4 years. I've never been all the way better. And so every time from the beginning of this year, I've been trying to climb up, and I got tired. And so I'm back there.
But I wouldn't say that you are back
way. Maybe I found another ledge.
I think you did. I mean, God, this whole thing now, all I'm doing is picturing The Dark Knight Rises as he gets out of the pit. Spoiler alert for a 10-year-old movie. But it's, you have found a new ledge. Because I have seen you at true disordered eating, every tract, every like pictures taken of everything, and no, we can't have that, no, I can't do that, and you were not there. You're still tracking, but
well, I'm not fasting.
that was the other part of it, and that's my fault. That is my fault. My doctor, my physician wanted me to lose weight again, and he said, you need to try intermittent fasting. And I brought that into the relationship, and adding intermittent fasting to a disordered eating world is it is gasoline on the fire. It is
I took
a total accelerant. You didn't just take it
and ran.
You did a marathon with that.
I did that for a long
And that's my
time.
fault. That one I apologize for. That was...
Well,
and that's one of those things where...
You didn't know.
Well,
and it was at the very beginning of our relationship, too.
Yeah. And that's one of those things where your disordered eating and my disordered eating are so, in some ways, diametrically opposed and not great for each other.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Because you're a Cancer and I'm a Sagittarius.
I have... Oh, is that your phone?
Yeah, I just dropped it.
Is it okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
I have this ability to be very disciplined, like to a fault. And so to have that kind of structure handed to me, so I'm not back there. So thank you for actually, I don't remember how I remembered that, if that you had mentioned that, but I guess I can look at the tape. But yeah, I'm not all the way back because part of that was, well, I'm not in my feeding window yet. And so I would sit there hungry, waiting until I was allowed to eat. So I'm not there. When I feel hungry, I eat. It's just right now I'm careful about what I'm eating, and I am tracking.
And I just replaced my Fitbit. And that's something in an ideal world, I wouldn't have done. In an ideal world, you get rid of yours.
I never did get rid of mine, even when I was doing full-on intuitive eating. I stopped paying attention to, but now I'm kind of back to doing that. I also haven't re-downloaded my FitnessPal.
That's great.
So, but Fitbit is worse, honestly. Fitbit is really terrible. Their food tracking feature is.
It's because it's overly conservative.
For someone with an eating disorder, or even for someone without, that thing will give someone a eating disorder. It's awful. It's awful. I sit there and I look at it, and when me and Heather is on vacation. I mean when she's away for just a few hours, and I can look at this and look at it really rationally and be like, I should not be so concerned that this is in the red, because this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
This number is
the way that they color things, the way all of these things, it's designed to punish you.
Yeah, it's terrible. I'll be actively using something and thinking I really should not.
Yeah.
I really should not be. I still am, and it's fine. And I'm eating all.
I really shouldn't. It's horrible, but it's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
On Heather's tombstone will be, it's fine, and what's the other thing?
I wrote a poem about it.
I wrote a poem about it.
It's fine. I wrote a poem about it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Hashtag this post not sponsored. To hell with you, Fitbit. As I just spent $100 buying a new one.
Yeah, and I haven't been able to let go of it.
And for me, I like being able to track my exercise. I like being able to have a watch.
But someone would just say, just get a watch.
Yes.
But it's
someone more rational than me.
But it does all these other things.
Yes.
And it is a visual reminder to be aware of exercise, weight, body, food, all of that. It's it is a weight on your body that is constantly reminding you of that whole side of life, that the whole diet, it's diet culture on your wrist. You're wearing diet culture.
Yeah.
So it's a constant reminder of it.
I'm proud of you when you also don't celebrate when you post your stats about Cycle Bar. You block out.
Yeah.
You don't celebrate the.
No.
You celebrate how many watts you burn, how many watts you generated.
It's really only if I'm in the top, if I'm 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And if I'm 2, I only post it if you were number 1.
Yes. And I remind her that I'm only number 1, not because I am in incredible shape. It's because physics is a son of a bitch. And
along those lines, because I also post my runs, but I don't post my runs. I'm looking at my
speed
distance and my speed.
Yeah.
And how that improves. So
you are celebrating your wins about getting stronger, not about burning. And that's another win. That's one you should really notice.
However, I think a whole other video would be our relationship with exercise.
Yes.
Because
I
still have a very
unhealthy relationship with exercise. And
I was talking to my friend Emily.
Still do, actually.
I was talking to my friend Emily. Well, Emily, you know Emily, my friend Emily, about this whole thing, because she was saying, oh my gosh, I love TikTok. You should totally get a TikTok. And someone else, another friend, had discouraged me from getting a TikTok because it is very promotional. It promotes diet culture, up the wazoo, apparently. And I know there are TikTok accounts that are similar to the Instagram accounts I follow that are very anti-diet culture and all of that. But to have to go through and curate my feed on an app that I'm not familiar with how to use, and along those lines, where I am right now with my eating disorder, I wouldn't do that. Whereas right now, my Instagram feed is already curated. I did the work with that. I'd have to go in and actively search for stuff that would be harmful to me. Whereas TikTok is probably going to default to showing me harmful things.
Yeah.
And I did have to explain to Emily, because she's like, well, what does that mean for something to like trigger you? And I was saying, well, for instance, if I were not tracking my food right now, but if I were on the tipping point of wanting to, seeing someone, even just seeing someone tracking their calories or doing a what I eat in a day and showing would make me want to. Like even just promoting like a really thin body, like seeing someone with a very small body wearing cute clothes, I'd want to. Stuff like that. So that's hard for me. So I was explaining that to her, and then I talked a little bit about exercise and how I saw something on Instagram where if the form of exercise that you are doing or that you feel like you have to do, if you knew that you could never lose weight, or even going further, if you knew that it would make you gain weight, but you would still be really fit and healthy, would you still do it? Is this exercise for your health and your fitness level, or is it to micromanage the size of your body?
I think I know the answer.
Well, yeah. No crap, of course. Because the priority for so many of us living in this society that idolizes a thin body or thin toned body, we do these exercises to make ourselves smaller. Maybe bigger in certain areas, but in general, smaller. So I remember the acupuncturist we used to have at work. She had mentioned something offhand about how she doesn't do cycle anymore because it made her thighs big. And
I remember you like freaking out about that.
That was upsetting to me.
You were freaked out about your arms being big.
Well, yeah.
And your arms are amazing. You have Michelle Obama, like, punch me in the heart kind of strong arms.
And it also just depends on where your muscles grow fastest. And for me, my arms get muscular easier than other parts of my body, especially my shoulders. So, and it's hard, especially when I'm shopping for new clothes, because I get very triggered by things not fitting me right. And so even if it's muscle, if I put my arm in a sleeve that's too tight, I feel like I'm fat.
I get it.
I know that's not accurate. That's not an accurate thought. But it is really hard to battle those thoughts and to contradict those thoughts, and it's just tough. So yeah, there's just, I don't know, that's a whole other video. Talking about clothes is a whole other video. Talking about exercise.
We could revisit my entire declutter.
Yeah.
As a week old.
If you guys haven't seen the declutter series where I helped Tyler do the whole KonMari method on...
we did like 3/4 of it.
We did most of it.
We got stuck on the last step.
We got stuck on something because it started to become more communal spaces and things, so
yeah.
It got a little harder. But the first video that we did anything was with clothes, and I handled it very insensitively, not knowing what I know now. So clothes could be something that we would talk about in this kind of series, but definitely relationship with exercise I want to talk about. And we've only really kind of touched the surface of navigating how you navigate me having an eating disorder. But there's a lot more we could talk about, so we will. I just would need to remember where we leave off here.
I mean, there's a whole, not to get too explicit, but it actually impacts our sex life.
Yeah, it does. It does. I've been. Do you want to hear about that? So we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I keep saying this. There's a lot to talk about. So I hope that this is something that's interesting to you guys. It's folks. I'm trying to say you guys.
I'm trying to excise guys as a catch-all.
I'm trying to be more gender neutral.
You're from California though, so dude is considered gender neutral?
No. I don't know. Folks. Y'all.
No, you're not from the South. Embrace your Californianness. Dude. Because everything's a dude.
Everything. This cup is a dude.
That cup is... Dude. I'm out of coffee. Dude.
It's more of an expletive.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's a lot to talk about. Let us know of the things that we talked about in the last video if you saw that, or this video. Anything specific that you want us to expand on, I'd be happy to. And then probably...
Like my waistline.
Just power down.
Sorry.
I remember what I was saying now.
You're the one with the good memory.
To expand on, let us know. Oh, the next thing I was going to say is we will not be outside in this lovely backyard for future videos. We'll be
Should we just film a third one right now?
No, because obviously my camera's running out of memory. I need to go through and delete other things. If you liked this,
give it a thumbs up.
Let us know.
As my daughter would say, like and subscribe.
Margaret.
Hit that little bell icon.
Yeah.
She started to say that now.
Really?
Oh yeah. I really need to keep them both from watching the YouTubes.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, we will see you next time, and I'll be on the lookout for what you guys want us to talk about, what you folks want us to talk about next.
Bye.
Bye.